Hi friends, I'm Day, your host, travel lover, deal finder, and storyteller. And this is Wander Every Day, the podcast where real talk meets real trips. Each week, I sit down with some of my favorite well-traveled friends to swap stories. We're diving in on where to stay, what to eat, how to spend your time and money, and how to enjoy exploring the world. Now, let's wander. Hey friends! Welcome back to Wander Every Day. On this week's episode, I am so excited to introduce the Wander Every Day community to my sister-in-law, but really she's like my sister, Christina. Christina and I have known each other now since my husband and I have been together, so that's 13 years. And honestly, we get along so well. I am so grateful to have her in my life, but even more grateful that her and I share some of the same passions and excitement in life, specifically when it comes to traveling. Christina's super well traveled. She really enjoys doing things both independently and with her friends. She travels with us, and I think she's going to have a fantastic perspective, especially for those who are interested in traveling to Europe in the summer. But before we jump into my conversation with Christina, let's take a quick spin through the places that she explored during her month-long trip to Europe. And trust me, it's a dream itinerary. She kicks off things in Switzerland, staying with her friend Doris in Fribourg. Using this as a base for her travel across Switzerland, Christina visited Lausanne, Bern, Gruyère, where the famous cheese is from, and Montreux, where she attended their very famous jazz festival. Next stop, Christina went to Italy, where she made her way through Milan's fashion-forward streets, down the coast to enjoy the charm of Genoa and the Cinque Terre, and then inland to enjoy the art and pasta havens of Florence and Bologna. Think apperitivo hours, hilltop views, and the kind of meals that make you consider never coming home. And finally, Christina ended her trip in Spain, where she stayed in vibrant neighborhoods in both Barcelona and Madrid, soaking up Gaudi architecture, late-night tapas and vermouth, and that perfect blend of chaos and charm that defines Spanish culture. From alpine calm to coastal cliffs, Renaissance cities to modern metros. Today's episode is a whirlwind of food, friendship, a little bit of solo travel, and the kind of summer that sticks with you. Let's get into it and hear about Christina's trip to Switzerland, Italy, and Spain last summer. Today on the pod, I'm joined by someone who is not only family, but also one of my favorite travel companions, my sister-in-law, Christina. She's the definition of the ideal young female Montrealer who is well-traveled, wine-loving, and art-appreciating. When she's not out enjoying a Cinque Terre at a cozy wine bar or checking out a gallery opening, you can find her doing truly meaningful work, bringing public health services to underserved communities in northern Quebec. Last summer, Christina spent almost a month traveling through Europe, visiting friends and soaking up the good life in Switzerland, Italy, and Spain. She's no stranger to Europe. She has previously explored Spain with her friends, sipped wine in small-town France, and spent time in the UK, and this is just to name a few. And Christina and I, well, we've got our own shared travel experiences, especially from our Aruba trips with my husband and my in-laws. And plenty of stories we probably shouldn't tell, but might anyway. Today we're diving into Christina's dreamy European summer. The food, the train rides, the spritz on a terrace travel mindset, and all the little moments that made it memorable. Christina, la mia bella sorella, welcome to the pod.
Grazie mille. I'm so happy to be here.
So let me tell the listeners at home a brief story about Christina to just set the stage and set the mood on what her personality is like in general.
I wonder what you're going to say.
So last year we were at Christina cousin's Marco's wedding. So for those of you who watched the African Safari episode, that's Francesca's brother. And I've known Christina for 13 years. I've spent a lot of time with her family. I think I would have known if she spoke Italian before then. But I'm standing at the bar having a drink, and all of a sudden I hear Christina just like speaking Italian to her dad. And I was like, since when do you speak Italian? Literally, I've never heard you speak a word of Italian in your life. Now, to give you credit, you do speak French. So I was like, maybe she kind of knows it because of French. I don't know. And it was that day I found out that you had done Duolingo for like months straight, and you were so good at Duolingo, you literally learned how to speak just like basic Italian. I was so inspired by you that I actually decided to do Duolingo in Italian myself, and now, as I just told you before we started recording, I'm at 215 days of Italian. Grazie mille, sorella.
Love the story.
But it's true. You're just like an impressive woman, which I don't know if that's ever something I've told you before, but I truly mean.
Oh,
I mean
thank
it when I
you.
say you're like very impressive, so intelligent. I really respect your lifestyle, and I love that you did this trip, and I cannot wait to review it with you today.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Before we get started talking about your trip, why don't you tell me kind of what motivated you to go on this trip in the first place?
So, Switzerland was never really a country on my bucket list. I think it was just a country I always thought of a place you go when you're older and you have more money and it's like retirees who take the train and look at the mountains. I never thought of it as a place I wanted to visit. But I actually had at that moment in time, I have one friend who lives there. She's Swiss Canadian and she lives in Lausanne and I met her in Montreal and she lives there permanently. But I also have a very good friend, Doris, who did an exchange in Switzerland last winter. She was living in a town called Fribourg. So her being there was kind of a reason for me to be like, okay, first of all, let's go and travel. I'll come meet you and let's go travel Europe. But then she was like, well, why don't you come spend some time in Switzerland, like before we go and travel together? So I was like, okay, it's summer. I probably wouldn't have gone otherwise. So I decided to go and spend a week in Switzerland with her before then going on to Italy and Spain with our other friend Maria. But yeah, I think I just wanted to do a trip in Europe. Like, I just wanted to go there in the summer. I'd gone to Spain the summer before, and I just loved being in the summer despite the heat and despite the crowds. It was just like, I just loved the vibe there in the summer. So I knew it was something I wanted to do. So I just kind of, took advantage of a friend being there, and another friend wanting to go as well to then plan this 3.5 week trip that we went on.
My next question was actually going to be, what's the appeal of going to Europe in the summer for you? Because in general, it's much busier, it's way hotter, it can be more expensive.
Yeah.
So you talked about the vibe. So tell us what that vibe is like in the summer that is so appealing.
Well, I think it's just okay. So let me be straight first. The reason that I did travel in the summer the year before was because of timing, because a friend that I went with to Spain is a teacher, so that was the only time she could travel. So that's why I went to Spain 2 years ago in the summer. Actually, I did travel. I went to Portugal as well in the summer, like a few years back as well. But the vibe, I don't know. I think it's just like the Europeans love to like take massive amounts of time off in the summer. So there's just like this very relaxed vibe that I can just very much relate to. Everyone is very tanned. Everyone's just on the beach, sipping wine, sipping spritz, having aperitivo or, just like living. I feel like there's just this energy that's very relaxed that maybe you don't find at all times of the year when, Europe is working and when it's like just a regular day in the year.
What were the exact dates of your trip?
So the exact dates, I was looking at that yesterday. It was July 12th, which was like a Friday night, until sometime at the beginning of August that I don't really remember, but it came out to about like 3.5 weeks that I was away. So sometime like August 4th or 5th.
But like dead of summer. So we're
Dead of
talking like
summer.
middle of
Very,
summer.
very much middle of summer. Like it was hot. Switzerland was very fine though. It was very bearable, but the more south we went after, the more hot it got. But I don't know, I just kind of block out heat. Like I'm always hot in the moment, but it's never something that deters me down the line. If I were to choose, ideally I think spring and the fall are the best, but I would still go back in the summer if those weren't choices, like the heat is not enough to deter me.
You have talked about you traveling in the past with your friends.
Yeah.
And without spilling like dirty details or like throwing people under the bus here, and I'm not saying that intentionally because I think things happened.
Yeah.
I know traveling with friends can be difficult. So,
Hmm.
what kind of things did you learn in previous trips traveling with friends that you kind of brought into this trip to make it a bit more of a flowy and fluid experience?
That's a good question. Because, like, I can't really say I had, like, major issues traveling with friends. Like, we're friends here in Montreal, and the things I like to do on trips are similar to what I like to do in Montreal. Like, I like to eat well. I like to just, like, be spontaneous, not be over planned. I'm not, like, a big tour person. Like, I like to just, like, kind of like, gallivant and, like, figure out where the locals are going and, like, eat and drink good food and, like, go to museums. So, anyone who's on that like similar vibe as me in Montreal is who I would travel with and who ends up being like a good travel companion for me. It's just like an energy match that I can feel already in Montreal.
That's a good answer. On the day budget travel scale, from 1 to 10, where 1 is the absolute cheapest accommodations, street food, minimal to no paid activities, and 10 is absolute luxury, no budget, 4 seasons travel, where would you rate yourself as a traveler?
I think I'm,
You can be a bougie bitch and be a 7. It's fine.
because I think I wouldn't put myself as bougie necessarily because I don't like stay in hotels. Like try to stay in hostels as much as I can, always like within a certain like, scale of hostel. Or like if we're enough people, we stay in Airbnbs. Like I'm not staying in like fancy beachside hotels. I don't like to restrict myself on vacation. It's not necessarily something that I really put a lot of thought into. My spending habits are not super luxurious. So but I still, okay, I would give myself like a 7. Yeah. Like,
Okay.
I think I would give myself a 7 if I'm, yeah, traveling in Europe, especially.
I don't know if I would necessarily say you were a 7. And I think why I come to that conclusion is because for me, 7 is like, you are staying at nice
Okay.
places.
That's okay.
You are like renting cars
Okay.
or getting taxis everywhere. Like
Mhm.
7's where you're really starting to push from like what an average person would spend on a vacation to like
I
more
see.
luxury. I'd probably give you more of five or 6, to be
Okay.
honest.
Okay. I think that makes sense too, because it's true that I'm always trying to take public transport. I'm not necessarily wanting to eat in like the fanciest restaurants. I just want to eat in the most authentic restaurants. Trying to,
Yes.
save as much as I can, but not in like a super budget way. So yeah, I think I can also resonate with a 5 or a 6 too. You read me well.
I've known you for a few years
You
now.
have. You have.
Tell us about your general trip itinerary.
So I flew into Geneva, but I stayed no time in Geneva. My plan was to land in Geneva and take the train to Fribourg, which is where Doris was living. So I landed in Geneva, went to Fribourg. I ended up being surprised at the airport by Alex and Doris, my 2 friends, but I was so tired from the plane ride that I didn't connect that it was them. I just looked at them and kept walking, and they were like, hello.
You're just walking by and you like look up and you like look down and they're like,
I was like looking for the train signs, like I don't know, and like I was just very out of it. So yeah, they picked me up and we stopped in Lausanne for a few hours, had lunch, and then we went to Fribourg. And Fribourg was like our home base. So our Airbnb was there. We stayed in Fribourg for the week I was there. And in terms of general itinerary, I did kind of just like day trips because Doris was also working. So I did some solo travel when she was working. So I went to Gruyère, the cheese town. We went to Montreux, we went to Lausanne, and we went to Bern, which is the capital city in Switzerland. And other than that, I also just spent, I think, a day or 2 days even in Fribourg. Then after
I'm
that,
going to tell you right away, the people listening to this podcast are going to be obsessed with your accent.
oh,
All of the Ontario people are going to be like, oh my God, listen to that French accent while she's speaking about these towns.
yeah, Montreal.
Sorry,
Other than that,
continue.
yeah. I mean, it was a nice thing. I found a very facilitating thing to travel in Switzerland was like being able to speak French. Like it just really facilitated travel alone, especially through the country. Because it's
Mhm.
technically like English is not an official language in Switzerland. So everything is in French, German, or Italian. So it did facilitate a lot.
How did your French compare to Swiss French? Because I feel like Swiss French in my mind is like the most clean, composed French of
Yeah.
all French.
I think it's supposed to be that. I can't speak much to it. I think it is supposed to be a very, like a slower, kind of very proper French. I don't think I speak Swiss French, but I think I also speak a slow, clear French. Since I didn't grow up necessarily speaking Quebecois French, we grew up in an English household, as you know. So I think, we had no problems understanding each other. So yeah, after that, that was like my itinerary in Switzerland. And then after we went to Milan, and then we went down to Genoa, to Cinque Terre, to Florence, to Bologna, and then we flew to Spain. We flew to Madrid, and then we went to Barcelona and ended in Barcelona.
It does seem like it was a lot. I mean, you were there for 3.5 weeks. Did you find the itinerary a bit too fast paced, or did you find it was like the right amount of stuff for you, considering you like a slower travel style?
Yeah, I found the amount of time in Switzerland was good. Like I was there for like a solid week and staying in one town and being able to kind of like fit my itinerary or do kind of what I wanted based on my own energy level. Like there wasn't anything strictly planned. So that I felt like 1 week was perfect in Switzerland. Cinque Terre, we had enough time, but we were like moving every 2 to 3 days, except for one town in Cinque Terre where we stayed. I can't remember, but I think it was for at least 4 nights and like 5 full days. So
Really?
we did have like some
Oh,
rest
wow.
time, and that was
Okay.
really nice because like we had a beach in that town we were staying at. So it was really nice to like have that more stretched, relaxed time. But we definitely said at the end of it, like flying to Spain was a bit much, like at the end of the trip. Like I think if I were to go back, I would just stay in Italy for the last week. The reason we went to Spain is because we were meeting Doris's mom and her sister in Madrid. So she was meeting them and continuing the trip with them, and I was continuing the trip with Maria. So we wanted to like see her mom and her sister. So we went all together. But in the end, even Doris was like, oh, I could have just met my family in Italy because like they were going back anyway to Italy. So there was
Hmm.
just like our Ryanair flight also was like super delayed. So we were just like having these regrets at the airport, like waiting 6 hours for our delayed flight. So there was just like, I think in the end, that felt like a bit too much, but the rest of it didn't. It felt like a good itinerary for the amount of time that we had.
How do you research or plan for your trips? I know obviously a lot of the Switzerland part you probably planned in coordination with Doris.
Hmm.
So perhaps maybe not so much for Switzerland, but for the Italy and Spain portion of the trip, how did you research or plan your trip? Are there any go-to websites, apps, or like research
Yeah.
resources you use?
I used it different ways. I'm the one who's kind of like obsessed with travel research. Like in Milan, for instance, I had an acquaintance from CEGEP who lived there. So she gave me like a bunch of recommendations for Milan, and that's how we like structured our itinerary for Milan. But for the rest, I look mainly at travel blogs. Like I do a lot of just like research on the internet of like what are some great places to visit in Cinque Terre, and then I'll go and like read further into it. Otherwise, I do look at Instagram a lot. I'm a big like Instagram travel. Like the algorithm is really targeted for me. So that's how I find like my restaurants. I find beaches through there. Or let's say like I find something through Airbnb or a travel blog, I'll go and like research that on Instagram or research the handle on Instagram and I'll find people's pictures and like what it actually looks like.
As you know, we're also going to Switzerland and Italy this fall, and it's the first trip ever that I've been using Instagram. And the reason why is because we are going to less traveled places. I mean, I say that we're going to the Amalfi Coast, but we're staying in Maiori, which is there's much less information on Maiori versus like Positano or
Yeah.
Amalfi or Sorrento. And I found that I could not find a lot of good content unless I was in Instagram, like
Hmm.
going to Reels and like looking at restaurants. I
Yeah.
couldn't find anything, especially for Ischia. Like Ischia, I go on YouTube, there's like a bunch of 20-year-olds who made these videos of them and just like bathing suits at the beach. I'm like, this is not helpful for me. I need more concrete information. Where are the beach clubs? Where are the restaurants? Where can I get a nice view? So only recently would I say that we've been moving towards using Instagram or like TikTok. I don't really use TikTok, but Reels as a resource too.
I think it gives you a more reliable image of what it looks like because it's just people's pictures, you know? So I
Mhm.
find it's better than looking on in books or I don't know, wherever else. I find it
Mhm.
does give a more realistic insight.
Let's dive into the actual locations you went to. And you went to a lot of places, so
That's
we're
it.
gonna have to keep them like somewhat brief-ish. So maybe let's just start by talking about Fribourg.
Fribourg.
Fribourg. Let's start with there since you were kind of there for a few days. Is that where you stayed?
Yeah. Yeah, that is where we stayed. That's where
Okay.
Doris was living. So
Okay.
we rented an Airbnb there because her lease was up. So we rented an Airbnb there and we stayed there for the whole week.
Did you like staying there as a town? And also, I've never heard of it. So, what is there to do there?
It is a very small town. It is a small French town. So it's kind of built on a hill or a small mountain. And the bottom is like there's a river. It's one of the most well-preserved medieval towns in Switzerland. And then once like further up the hill is the more modern part. There's a university, so it kind of has like a university town feel, and it's built within like medieval walls. And it's very green. It's very beautiful, very peaceful. So it was like a nice place to stay. I don't know like if there's tons to do there. Like I just kind of took it easy, went to cafes because then this is when Doris was working. So I would like sit by the water and just like relax. And Switzerland is so quiet. Like they have a lot of, I guess, like unwritten rules on noise. So it's just like so peaceful, so quiet. You really hear like the sound of the river, of just like nature. Like people speak like very lightly, like low. So I just like felt very at peace in that town. It's one of the only bilingual towns in Switzerland. They speak French and German. But otherwise, I did day trips out of there. So
Okay, so then let's quickly talk about the places you went in order.
I stayed in Fribourg the first day I was there. Just explored Fribourg a bit. And then we went to Montreux for an evening. So Montreux is like a very bougie town next to Lausanne. So it's on the same lake. It's on Lake Geneva and it's facing like you see the mountains with the white caps in the back. And it's known for its very iconic jazz festival, like the Montreux Jazz Fest, which is very expensive. Like that night, I think we were there. There was like Lenny Kravitz and Sting who were at this festival. So we didn't pay to get into the festival, but they do have like a part of it, like a branch of it that's like a bunch of food trucks and like outdoor clubs with like live music and dancing. So we just like stayed along there and like got some food from the food truck and sat by the water, looked at the views, kind of soaked in the vibe. It was very fun. So we did that on like a Tuesday evening. It's about like a 45-minute train ride from Fribourg. After that, I think I did like a, not I think, I did like a day trip to Gruyère alone. And Gruyère is like a medieval town that's at the top of a mountain that you walk up the mountain. So be prepared to walk up a mountain if you're going to Gruyère. And it's in like the pre-Alp area of Switzerland. So it's not exactly the Alps yet. But I mean, coming from Eastern Canada, like such a flat place, it is still very impressive to see these views from the top of Gruyère. Yeah, Gruyère is like this very small town at the top of a mountain that kind of, has cobblestone streets. It's like you can do the whole town in 10, 15 minutes. And I just kind of walked around there, got gelato, sat and looked at the views. If you go back down the hill, there's the Gruyère factory. I think it's called La Maison du Gruyère. And it's a cheese factory where they show you like how the cheese is made and like you can like taste different like ages of Gruyère cheese. So it's a great day trip to do. And then I took the train back to Fribourg.
I have a few questions.
Yes.
The first question is Gruyere like I can only equate it to wine or champagne. So champagne is
Oh,
from Champagne,
yes.
France. Is Gruyere only from Gruyere, Switzerland? Do they have like a stamp like or it needs to be from this hill town in order to be Gruyere cheese?
That's a good question. I think so. I mean, we'd have to Google it, but I think so. I think Gouda is the same way. But
Oh,
anyway,
really? Is there
yeah.
a town called Gouda
Yes,
somewhere?
yes, there's a town called Gouda. I was just watching somebody feed Phil, and he visited Gouda in the Netherlands. I don't think anywhere else in the world produces Gruyere. I mean, all the Gruyere that I've seen is produced in Fribourg, like the canton of Fribourg in Gruyere.
How do you enjoy traveling on your own? I know in essence you were kind of staying with Doris and
Yeah,
traveling with Maria too, but do you enjoy doing day trips and stuff like that by yourself?
yeah, very much. I mean, I've never done a full trip alone, but I've always had moments alone in trips, where I've had like 1 or 2 days alone. But yeah, I really enjoy that time by myself.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm I think it's a sign of a strong, independent woman who knows what she wants and likes to travel and do things by herself. Not that if you can't do it, you're not,
Yeah.
but I think it's just like, it's very impressive and it says a lot about your character in a positive way, in my humble opinion. Okay, so after you went to
Yes.
Gruyère,
After Gruyere, yeah.
you went to Bern?
No, so after that we were supposed to so there's this river in Switzerland called, and I don't know if I'm saying it properly because I think it's in German, but the Aar River, Aare River, which like goes along many different towns in Switzerland. So it's actually a very popular way to tour different towns in Switzerland is to get like this like inflatable boat and to let the current take you, and that's how you see different towns. So that was something that our friend Alex, who is Swiss Canadian, was saying it's something we absolutely had to do because it's a really fun thing to do in Switzerland. People really recommend it as a way to see like multiple places. Alex had bought us like an inflatable boat. We like had our like waterproof bags. We were ready to do this. But unfortunately, like the week before I arrived, there had been a lot of rain. And when there's a lot of rain, the waters become dangerously high and the current became too strong. So it was recommended that we don't do it, especially if you don't know the river very well, because there are like points where you can get off that you can see when the water is lower, but when the water is high, you can't see those drop off points where you can get off the river. So it makes it more dangerous. In the end, what we did is we went to Lausanne, and Lausanne has this kind of like beach culture in the summer. So there's a beach called Plage de Vidi, which is like on the lake. And it's
Can you spell that for the English folks?
yeah, Plage de Vidi. It's Vidy. So it's this really beautiful beach with like there's like grass in the back, and then there's like sand, and people are all like chilling everywhere in groups and going to swim in the lake, and you see the mountains in the back. On a clear day, you can see France. So we just like got some snacks from the store and brought that to the lake and spent the day at the beach. So that was really, really nice. And then on the last day, we went to Bern, which is like the capital city in Switzerland. And they also have this like UNESCO preserved medieval town in Bern, which is really beautiful. And Bern is also on this R river that I was talking about that you can take the inflatable boat. So if you go down by the river, there's like a grassed area and a bunch of people were hanging out. And I don't know if you saw the video of me, but basically there's like a river and a current, and there's a place where you can get in and you just like let the current take you. And then you have to like grab onto stairs to get out. So all the locals do this. It's a very popular thing to do in Bern. You see locals like getting in and they have like their bags, like holding their bags like this and letting themselves be dragged by the current. So I was like, okay, you know what? I have to do this. Even though I hate cold water and I'm scared of current, but I was like, my friends that I was with were doing it. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And you like kind of go down through this little path to get into the water. And the water's really turquoise because it's like the glacial melt. So it's cold but beautiful. So anyway, I was like trying to get in, and then there's these like German girls who are like, go, you can do it, go, go, go. And I was like, oh my God. But then I eventually jumped in, and the current is super fast. So you're just like getting dragged by the current, and then you have to like swim to this like stairwell that you have to like grab onto and then get out of the water. So that was an experience. Not something I would love to do again, honestly. I don't love cold water. Like my friends went and did it a million times, and I was like, I'm good. They had like
Hmm.
natural pools that were still part of the river that they created stairs, and it was more of like a pool. So I went more in there after, while my friends continued to like do the like jumping in the current and going around.
Hmm.
I just hung out. This area of Bern is called Marzili, so that was cool.
I'm looking at a map of Switzerland right now. It looks like Fribourg is in the middle of all of these places.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
can see the river
Yes, the R River. Yeah.
running kind of through all of Switzerland, you can see, which is cool. The only reason we're even going to Switzerland, to be real with you, if I haven't already told you this, is because of our flights, because we got like a business flight from Toronto to Zurich with Swiss Air. Otherwise, we wouldn't be going. And I'll tell you the reason why. It's not because I don't want to go to Switzerland.
Yeah.
Absolutely not at all the case. It's because it seems so expensive. And I'm like quite a budget traveler, especially for this trip. Like,
Mhm.
we're going to like sit on the beach, drink Aperol Spritz. We're not doing sightseeing.
Yeah.
And I've been looking into Zurich stuff specifically, and people are like, don't expect to eat for less than like 25 francs for like a sausage. And I'm
Oh yeah.
like, so it is
Yeah.
overwhelming to me, the cost.
Yeah.
So I guess I actually have two questions. The first question is, what's the food like in Switzerland in general? And then my second question is, what's the cost of eating these foods
Yeah.
or going out for food?
Honestly, I did not explore the restaurant culture much in Switzerland just because of that. It was on the first day with Alex. We went to a Vietnamese restaurant in Fribourg, and it cost me without alcohol like 30 francs for a bowl of pho, which was like, it was kind of like a hipster Vietnamese place, but still, it was like really expensive. And I
I'm
was
gonna just put that into here for a second. 30 francs
yes,
in Canadian dollars.
it's like
This is where the
$50.
$50
Yeah,
for a
so
bowl of pho.
for a bowl of pho. So
I'd go to Vietnam and have it
I
for
was like,
$1.
yeah. I was like, no, no. And Doris was on the same page. So in Switzerland mainly, I didn't even have like fondue or any of like the more traditional classic Swiss dishes. We really went to the grocery stores, which I don't mind because the grocery stores in Switzerland and in Europe are so well stocked. Like I love the products in the grocery stores and the wine is really cheap. So we would just like go to the grocery stores and buy whatever food we wanted, like to make salads, to make charcuterie boards, to make cocktails or whatever. So that's actually how we did it for the most part in Switzerland. I think we just went out for dinner one other night to have ramen, and that was also really expensive, but really good. And we just wanted to like have a night out. So we went to eat ramen. But the other nights we just made our own food, lunch as well, breakfast as well. Another thing
Mm.
to note in Switzerland, and I think you'll be taking the Bernina, right? So you already have like your transport taken care of. But the one thing that should be kept in mind is that the cost of taking the train in Switzerland is different for someone who's a resident there or who has an address there versus someone who is a tourist, and not by a little bit. It's like double the price. So when me and Doris would go and buy our train tickets and she had an address there, she was paying half the price in francs that I was paying. So sometimes just for the ticket to go to Montreux, it cost me like 80 francs, which is over $100 for my transport for like a 40-minute train ride. It's definitely expensive to get around. It's expensive to eat. So I think people already know that about Switzerland, but it was definitely still shocking when I was there.
So we're flying into Zurich and then we're going to Kur, which is in southeastern Switzerland. So like the complete opposite direction of where Christina is for people listening. And we're taking the Bernina Express from Kur to Tirano, which is a tourist panoramic train that goes through the Alps.
Yeah.
For information, and maybe this is something you did, maybe not. We booked our train already from Zurich to Kur because they do offer really great discounts if you book early. It's like a super early fare. The train was supposed to cost $80 a person. We got it for $40 a person
Oh, wow.
because we booked in advance.
Okay.
But something I didn't notice until we were checking out is that it naturally like automatically goes to that like regional fare. So it assumes I live in Switzerland.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when I went to change it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much more expensive, which is fine because we booked in advance.
Right.
But if we had have waited and not booked in advance, it would have cost over $160 to take a 1 hour commuter train.
Yes, that's exactly what happened to me. We booked a few local trains in advance, and I think we were able to get a cheaper price, as you said, because we were booking more in advance and we knew for sure that that's something we wanted to do. But the rest was kind of left open, especially for the days that I was solo. So I would book the day of, and yeah, definitely advisable if you know your itinerary in advance to be able to book your transport in advance. It's a big cost saving.
So how did you get from Fribourg to Italy?
There's supposed to be normally a train from Fribourg directly to Milan, but it's under construction, and I think it's going to be under construction for the next like few years. So that was the case already last summer. So we had to go through Zurich to then go back down to Milan through Lugano. And
Question.
Yes, you look
So, as someone going on this trip, I'm sorry, listeners, as someone planning a trip to this area,
yes.
did you go through the Alps like I am going through the Alps then on a regular train?
We still had incredible views on this train, but it's just a commuter train, so you don't have like this panoramic view. And they use tunnels more, so you're kind of going a lot under the mountains, whereas the Bernina goes above the mountains, so you get more spectacular views. It was a really beautiful train ride.
Do you feel like, because I read this a lot on Reddit,
Okay.
There are some people who are like, don't pay for the Bernina Express. It's not worth the cost. You can take a commuter train. And then some people are like, I think it's worth it to pay for the Bernina Express, which, for example, I just bought my tickets, cost us $175 a person. We bought it in advance and we bought second class. Do you feel like you wish you did the panoramic train, or were you content probably spending less money and just taking a little commuter train, basically going the same route?
I mean, I was content because this was the first time I was seeing these kinds of landscapes, the first time I was seeing Switzerland. So to me, everything was really impressive. Like I thought what I was seeing was spectacular already. But Doris, who had been there for 6 months, who had done other things in Switzerland, she did like a version of the Bernina Express through a commuter train, but going like kind of more into the mountains. And she said that was just one of the most beautiful things she's ever seen, and it's definitely worth doing. Just for me, I was like content already because I was like, wow, like everything was really impressive to me. I was like glued to the window looking outside. So I would say it's worth it, and I'm sure it's going to be a very incredible experience for you.
Let's break down then Italy kind of place by place, same kind of way we did Switzerland. So, like, briefly talk about each place, maybe stop after each place so I can ask you questions quickly,
Sure.
but and then just go in order of where you went.
So yeah, we arrived in Milano Centrale, the beautiful train station in Milan. So we stayed in this cool, I would say, hipster neighborhood of Milan called Navigli, which is near the canal. And it's near a bunch of like restaurants and bars and a bunch of aperitivo restaurants along the canal. So the acquaintance that I knew in Milan gave me like honestly a huge list of recommendations. It was really helpful. The first thing that we did was go to Appetitivo when we arrived in Milan at this place called Felix on the canal in Navigli. You know, we had spritz, and part of the Appetitivo culture is that they give you free snacks with your food. So we had like olives and chips for free, and then we ordered like, the board and like enjoyed our spritz and just enjoyed like the local Italian Appetitivo culture that I love so much.
That we practice every single time I'm at your parents' house, every single day that we're
Yes.
there.
Yes, and I found not to go out like on a tangent, but found a bar in Montreal that does aperitivo where I did my birthday, and they do aperitivo like very properly. So it's like
What's the bar called in Montreal?
called Barbello.
Ooh.
It's called Barbello, and they do like aperitivo hour where they have like a list of cocktails for $10, and they give you like those big green Italian olives with taralli. It's lovely. So yeah, we did that, and then we went to the Duomo, which was like a very classic thing to do in Milan. We called it that golden hour, which I highly recommend. We kind of like stumbled upon it at golden hour by accident. You've never been to Milan, eh? Did you know? No.
Mm-mm.
So the Duomo is like the very famous church in Milan.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing it at golden hour, we were just like blown away. It was like we just, I think, stayed there for an hour, just staring at it, taking pictures, and just like in awe of what we were seeing. And then we went to the Galleria Vittorio Emanuele.
Galleria Vittorio Emanuele
That one?
II.
Yeah, so it's also like a very beautiful building next to the Duomo where they have like all the luxury shopping and restaurants. I mean, we didn't do anything there. We just walked around and looked, and it was gorgeous. Milan was kind of freestyle. We just like the next day walked around, went thrifting, went for coffee. We went to Park Sempione, which is like the big green park in Milan where a lot of people are like having picnics, or there's like we saw tam-tams there too. I mean, there were a lot of people. It was a cool vibe. And then we went back to Aperitivo to another place called My Cafe, also another great aperitivo spot on the canal. And then we got some pizza, and we had like a rooftop terrace on our Airbnb. So went and had pizza on the rooftop terrace, looked at the views of Milan. Yeah, it was kind of just a very kind of what does it feel like to live in Milan kind of vibe. I would say one thing is there were a lot of mosquitoes in Milan because of the canal. So that was a little surprising. Like in the middle of a big city, like a lot of mosquitoes to the point where we were in a restaurant and one of the waiters gave us mosquito repellent because it was like they were in the restaurant, and like they're like fat mosquitoes, and they were like destroying Doris.
Oh my
So that
gosh.
was like not great. We were trying to enjoy our pasta and there was like these giant mosquitoes.
Bzzz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, it's because of the canal. And we're like, oh, didn't expect that. So
Mhm.
yeah. So
Milan, I don't actually know if I identify the appeal. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
Firenze has like the river and I don't know, Michelangelo and
Just
like
yeah,
Rome has the
yes.
Colosseum. What is the appeal to Milan?
I think for me it was just like it being a fashion capital. To me it feels so mysterious and stylish. Being in Milan, I don't think it's necessarily what people imagine when they think of Italy. Like it's a very big mix of modern. There are like the older architecture that you associate with Italy, but it's very much fused with modern architecture. So it is different in that way. It's not necessarily beautiful everywhere you look. There's a lot of like graffiti and it's like it has like a grunge factor to it, but I loved that about it. And I found it wasn't very touristy, honestly, except around the Duomo. So I found it had like a very local feel, which I really liked. I just had this impression about Milan that there's like, this whole maybe party scene or like, I don't know, exclusive scene that we can't see with our naked eye when we're there, which just like fascinated me about it. Like when we were having our aperitivo one day, there were all these people like ringing this doorbell and then someone would like open the door and they would like crawl into the door and I'm like, where are they going with this like party?
I've heard Milan has quite the speakeasy culture. That is what I
Well,
have
that was
heard.
maybe what I was seeing then was a speakeasy. Yeah,
Mhm.
I would go back, honestly. I thought it was like very cool.
I feel like I know you enough to feel like this is a place that I can see you like actually living.
Yeah, I think so.
I could see Chris being like, moving to Milan.
Yeah, I could see myself doing that too.
After Milan, I'm
Yeah.
assuming you went to Cinque Terre
Yeah, so
based
we
on
stopped
proximity.
in yeah, so we stopped in Genoa before
Mm,
Cinque Terre. So we took a train down to Genoa and we stayed in Genoa for 2 nights in an Airbnb in the historic center of Genoa. Our Airbnb was really cool. It was like this very historic, like old castle kind of. It was a very cool spot. And we were right in the old city. Right when we got there, we found this like pasta place around the corner that we proceeded to go to every day after finding it, called Pastaficio di Canneto. But it was a really cool spot with that. Like you can eat for less than 10 euros. It was like a counter where you went and ordered, and they had every single choice of fresh pasta that you can think of, every choice of sauce, and they would serve it to you in like a little paper plate. So we went there for like lunch and dinner every day because we wanted to try everything on the menu. And then our Airbnb host there gave us a recommendation to go to Boca d'Asse, which is the beach. I don't know if you heard of that in Genoa. So it's the
mm-mm.
beach in Genoa. You can take like a train from the old city, and it basically looks like Cinque Terre. Like it's like the beach town of Genoa. It has like the pastel buildings. It has like the rocky beach, the nice water, and it's really not touristy. It was full of like Italians, and we sat on the beach there. That was the second day in Genoa. We just spent a day doing that, sitting at the beach. So that was a really nice surprise because we didn't know that Genoa had this like really cute beach town just a bus ride away. Maybe you had done this when you were there, but it's went up to like the Castelletto, which gives you like a panoramic view of Genoa. I mean, it's a port city, so I know everyone has like varying experiences there, but we liked it. We had a really good experience. We ate well, and the people were really nice too. We met like locals at this pasta place who like gave us recommendations as well of bars to go to, of things to do. So we had a great experience there.
When I spoke on Francesca's Safari episode about how we
Yeah.
went to Corsica and it was very cold, when we went to Genoa and Cinque Terre, it was also very cold and raining. It was 10 degrees and
Oh,
raining. So I think our experience in general, it's just
different.
different. Like
Yes.
we were soaking wet.
Yeah.
It was pouring rain. So it
Yeah,
does take away the appeal.
definitely.
I would say for Cinque Terre, it's still beautiful, but it wasn't as magnificent, perhaps. Um,
Yeah.
in Genoa, do you think it's worth stopping there if you're someone going on a trip to Italy? Because there's so many places to go in Italy. So how do you
Yeah.
make room for Genoa as part of your itinerary?
Like intentionally stopping there, you mean? Because we kind of happened to stop there because it was an easier way to cut the trains, because it would have been a very long trip to go from Milan and then to Cinque Terre. So that we decided to cut our trip like that. As you said, like there are so many places to see in Italy, so would I recommend Genoa? Not necessarily, but I think it is a nice place to stop and to see. Like I thought it was worth it. I was happy I went, but I don't think I would go out of my way to recommend someone to, this should absolutely be part of your itinerary.
Genovese. What's
Genovese,
the
they have
food
great
that's Genovese?
pesto.
Pesto.
Yeah, they have great pesto. We ate that a lot
Mm.
at that artisanal pasta place that we loved.
So you took the chain from Genoa.
Yes.
Did you?
Um,
You said you stayed in Cinque Terre.
So we didn't. We stayed in a small secret town outside of Cinque Terre, which we made a pact that we wouldn't name it to anyone.
Okay.
But if anyone is curious, you can send me a message and I will tell you the name of the town. We just didn't want it. We were like, oh my God, we must preserve this beautiful town that no one must know
Fair
about it.
enough. I respect the hidden gem.
It was very much hidden.
Christina Santella on Instagram. You can DM her and ask her.
You could ask me, I will tell you, because it was so beautiful, so worth it. The way that I found it was that we were looking for Airbnbs in Cinque Terre. Everything was so expensive and already taken. So I found this town that is a few towns before Cinque Terre and read up on it, and people raved about it. And honestly, so worth it. We found this Airbnb at the top of like a little mountain that had the view of the ocean, of like the pastel colored buildings, and it was just stunning. Our host was so nice. He like, left us pesto and pasta and wine in our room for our arrival, like left us a little note, like enjoy. So it was, just a little touch too that was made the experience really nice. So yeah, it's like a little town that is just full of Italian locals and Italian tourists. So it was really nice, and there's a beach there. And it's really not far from Cinque Terre. It's connected on the same train line. So as I said, we were there at least 4 nights. So we would, use those days to take the train into the different towns of Cinque Terre and see each of them. But the first day we didn't actually do that. We did a hike from the town we were in to Levanto, which is also the gateway town to Cinque Terre. It's the first town before Cinque Terre. So we did this hike, and we kind of went over the prohibited area, but it didn't look too dangerous. It just said that it was under construction, but we're like, no, it's fine. It seems.
The Via dell'Amore.
No, we didn't do the Via dell'Amore. It was,
Although that just opened. I just heard they just
yeah,
opened
it
it.
did open, but no, this was another hike where it was a hike from where we were to Levanto. So it wasn't actually in Cinque Terre yet. And we found a secret beach where there was no one, and it was beautiful. And then we ended up in Levanto and like had lunch there and headed back. So that was the first day.
I do very specifically remembered when you were talking to me about going to Cinque Terre, I was like, I don't know.
In the
It's
summer.
beautiful.
Yes.
It's so beautiful, but it was so overrun by tourists. Now,
Yes.
I also went as a cruise ship stop. So I think part of it is like the influx of people during the day. And my understanding is also that a lot of people day trip there for the day
Yes.
from like Milan and other
Yes.
places. So it sounds like, on your experience, you actually were able to find these little hidden gems. How did you find each of the towns on their own when you were actually visiting them in terms of like tourism?
Yeah. So yeah, we did find those hidden gems, but we did also go to the main Cinque Terre towns. So we started with Rio Maggiore. And yes, definitely the Cinque Terre towns themselves were packed. So when we saw that, we were so happy that we decided to stay outside of Cinque Terre because, oh my God, Rio Maggiore was, first of all, an oven. It was so hot. And the beach in Rio Maggiore is basically like, it's like a concrete beach. The wall, you're surrounded by concrete and it's rocks. So we couldn't stay on the beach because our butts were burning on the rocks. So we just went in the water and left. And we actually didn't stay in Rio Maggiore. We just like walked around for a bit and got right back on the train. We were like, you know what? There's too many people. It's hot. I'm not enjoying this. So let's go to another town. So we got back on the train right away and went to Cornelia. There are a lot of flights of stairs to climb. But once you get up, there were fewer people in this town. So I found it was less overrun by tourists, but it was hard to find like kind of a cute, authentic restaurant to eat in. I found like everything felt like it was being catered to tourists. We found the same thing in Rio Maggiore when we took a bit of time to try to look for a restaurant. We're like, you know what, we'll just go somewhere else because it just felt like nothing was very well rated. It all seemed like it was just not very authentic and very much catered to tourists. So that was like a note that we had, but that we would love to see it like in the fall or in maybe in the spring when like there are less people. But Cornelia was nice, and we did do the hike from Cornelia to Vernazza, and that was beautiful because we did it at sunset. So we started right before sunset and like made it to Vernazza at sunset. And on that hike, there was like this locally owned bar slash cafe that was like a break spot where like they made homemade lemonade and they had like the views of the ocean, of the mountains. It was just like so nice, like such a nice touch. Also, because we were sweating so much. Like it was so hot. I don't think I've ever sweat like that in my life. I was dripping,
Oh my
dripping.
God.
Uh, but it was really worth it, honestly, in the end. And we ended up in Vernazza and like swam there. And we went to a really good restaurant there that was really small. It was kind of like a fish restaurant. So we had like, you know, some fresh pasta with seafood. And there must have been like, there was less than 10 tables in that restaurant. And I will try to find the name of it because I was looking at the map before. And this is a lesson that I will learn, I think, from doing this podcast as well, is to save restaurants on Google Maps. I have friends who like have maps of everywhere they travel, of all the places that they've went and pin them. So we did that, and then the trains, the only thing is in Cinque Terre, the trains when we were there anyway were ending at like 10 or 11. So you did have to kind of like rush to make sure to take the train back to the town we were in. Otherwise, we would have had to pay for like a really expensive taxi. So that was kind of the only pitfall of staying outside of Cinque Terre, was having to make sure to align your schedule with the trains to be able to get back.
I would say in general, though, that the trains were pretty good. Like
Yeah.
getting in and out of the towns, they're so convenient.
Yes.
It's literally right there.
Yes.
The platforms got very busy.
Yeah.
So
Oh
just
my
like be
God.
mindful of that.
Crazy busy.
But it is very, very convenient to access the Cinque Terre if you're not staying there. Like
Yeah.
literally the trains are coming constantly and they're in and out and the towns are right there, except for Cornelia.
Which,
I
yeah.
think I think the rest of them are like literally right there.
Yeah. Exactly. They are very accessible. The platforms are like directly in the towns, and the trains come quite frequently. So it's not an issue. Although we did get a train strike one day, which was not great, but otherwise the trains were very reliable.
I was listening to a podcast today where they were talking about Italy, and it was filmed yesterday or recorded
Okay.
yesterday. And the girl was like, okay, here are your updates for Italy in June. I'm going to read you a list of all of the train strikes happening in July. And literally was like, here,
Oh my
this day. And
gosh.
I was like, what a nightmare if you're
What a
someone who's planning
nightmare.
to travel
Yeah.
and you don't know this is going to happen. Our train
Yes.
from Tirano to Milan, that train line's actually closed for all the summer. The whole summer it's closed. I found out after I booked our whole trip. So they're only offering buses now, but like you really have to pay attention if you're going to Italy in particular about trains and ferries. I know so many people whose trips have been ruined or completely altered by ferry and train
Oh my
strikes.
God. Yeah. I did not think about that when we were booking. So yeah, that was something that we experienced, and it was quite stressful because we had to like, it was the day that we had to grab connections to get to our next destination. So we were like, the train was getting delayed, like, okay, for another hour, for another 30 minutes, for another hour. And we were like, okay. But yeah, other than that, we went to Monte Rosso on the last day, which is like the beach, the big beach in Cinque Terre, and that was nice. We spent the day at the beach. Yeah, and then after that, we caught the train when we could, when it was not when it came finally to Florence. But we had a really nice experience in this little town we were in because we kind of like got to know the owners of the little markets. They had maybe like one or two markets in this town to get your food. and we were going there to get our breakfast, to get cheese, to get focaccia, to get peaches. The guy ended up like talking to us and figured out that we had like Italian descent because my friends also, Maria and Doris, they're from Chile, but they are both from somewhere along the line Italian descent, and they have like very Italian names as well. So he was like really happy and like he was like, "Oh, come back before your train." So we ended up going back before our train and he gave us like a big thing of free focaccia, a bunch of free peaches, like and it was like just enjoy, like thank come back. Like it was so nice to meet you. So that was like a very nice touch.
Well, just like your family, the Centellas, some of you ended up in Canada and then many of your family ended up in Argentina. So I'm
Yeah,
sure it's probably the same reason. Like so many Italians immigrated to South America after World War II. So
exactly.
that's really cool. I didn't actually
Yeah.
know that about Doris. I don't know who
Yeah.
Maria is, so I
Yeah.
didn't know that about her
Yeah.
either. You didn't talk about Manarola. You went
We
there too?
didn't, so we actually didn't go. We didn't go to
Oh,
Manarola. It was the only Cinque Terre that we didn't go to because at the end we could have gone on our last day, but we actually decided to just stay in the town we were in and just kind of soak it up. And like we figured out this other smaller beach that was a part of this town, so we discovered that and we're like, oh, this is really nice actually. So I don't like to feel rushed to like see all the monuments when I'm somewhere. Like I just like to kind of to see how I feel and to not, force myself to do anything. If I'm feeling drawn to stay more put one day, then I'll do that and not necessarily allow myself to feel guilt about it.
mhm. I said Firenze earlier, and I realized that like 90% of people probably don't know I'm talking about Florence. Next up is Florence, aka
Florence.
Firenze.
Yes, Florence. Yeah.
Tell me about Florence.
Yeah, so we had all been there before. So this was just like, oh, we all loved it and had like wanted to go back. It was so hot in Florence. Like I think it was 45 degrees. And it was, we were going more south and going more inland. So it was, a shock to go from like the coastal towns to inland. But yeah, we stayed at an Airbnb in Florence. And since we had all already been there, we just kind of took our time there, walked around. We went to like the Mercato Centrale, which is like the big market in Florence where you can go get food. It's a big food market in Florence. We had a funny experience there because we were just walking around and Doris saw this art gallery like full of portraits and she was like, "Oh, could we go check that out? I don't know. I want to go see what's happening in there." So we go in and there's like four walls covered in portraits. And we were like, oh, wow, interesting. And then this guy kind of just like emerges from from the back room and is like, oh, hi. Like kind of like, hi. And we're like, oh, hey. I don't know. We kind of like chatted with him. And then eventually Doris was like, oh, I really want to have my portrait painted. Like, I just feel like I need to do this. So we go into this guy's house. Basically, he was living it was both his art gallery and his house. And it was kind of like a plateau apartment in Montreal where it was like long. So in the back was like his studio where he created, and in the front was where he had like the open to public part of his gallery. So we went in the back and like we chilled with this guy for hours. I don't even know how long we had wine. We talked to him about his life, about our lives, and it was a really, really fun experience. Like we just like, yeah, I think we left there at like 11. He recommended us like a restaurant to go eat at, and it was very cool. Uh,
Just like I love authentic experiences like that.
yeah,
That is what makes traveling is
yeah.
just mingling with the locals and
I think it was one of the more like memorable parts of the trip. Just like getting to know this guy, why he's in Florence, and like his apartment had like Matisse paint, like he had painted like Matisse all over the walls, and it was just like, I don't know, just like very unique. Like it's like an experience that we'll remember. And yeah, I agree with you. It's like fun to mingle with the locals there.
I think Florence specifically too. It's such a artsy place. I mean,
Hmm.
it's the home of the Renaissance.
Yes.
You have David and you have the Uffizi Gallery.
Yes.
What a cool way to, I don't know, spend time there as like being with one with the artists who live in Firenze.
Right? Yes, exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
What else did you guys do?
We ate and walked around, had spritz, and went to see like the main sites in Florence, like the Cathedral, David, you know. Yeah, we weren't in a rush in Florence. We just kind of walked around and we had already seen the main sites there. So,
I did find the Duomo in Florence, or the cathedral in Florence, to be the most beautiful one I've ever seen in the world. Personally,
hmm,
I love it's like white, but it almost has like color.
looks like marble almost. Yeah.
It probably is marble.
Yeah.
I feel like many things in Italy are. It was super, super beautiful.
Hmm.
I'll also quickly say I've been to Florence, not on a cruise. It's not the only way I travel. Nick and I did go to Florence when we were in Italy in 2019. And Nick, I don't actually know if you know this. I imagine you probably do. He actually surprised me with we got engaged the day before we went to Florence. And then he surprised me by hiring a photographer who went with us to the Bardini Gardens in Florence. Did you know this?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
Maybe I did.
okay, so he proposed to me in Siena, which is in
Yeah,
Tuscany,
I love seeing.
and he was like, "Oh, and just so you know, as a surprise, I booked this photographer who's meeting us tomorrow in Florence in the Bardini Gardens, which is on the other side of the river but overlooks Florence. So if you're someone who wants an area to take beautiful pictures of Florence or just appreciates a good garden, these gardens, and it's also beside the Bomboli Gardens, are like on a hill and they're so beautiful and you get the best views of Florence. And you could see the sun setting if you wanted to go at sunset.
Nice.
That would be what I would recommend.
Nice. Cool.
So after Florence, you went to Bologna, which is
Yeah.
probably the top spot I want to go to in Italy. We're not going on this trip, but I am excited to hear you talk about it.
Yeah.
What did you guys do in Bologna?
Yeah, I wish I had more to say about it because we actually only spent a half day there because it was a cheaper place to fly out of than Florence. And it's only a 30-minute train ride from Florence. It's like a commuter train, a fast train, and it's really easy. So we're like, oh, let's just go spend a half day in Bologna. But it was not somewhere that I had really known much about before going there. But having this taste of it really made me want to go back because it has a really interesting vibe. There's a big university there, but we were only there a half day. So we just went to go find somewhere to eat right outside the old town of Bologna and sat on a terrace because we had to go to the airport after. So we sat on a terrace, ordered bolognese, which is like something you have to do in Bologna, obviously. Had bolognese and like had tasted like all the wine on the menu almost. We tried like the white, the red, we tried the orange wine that is like I was really surprised to see on a Italian menu, but it was really good. They're like producing it in the Veneta region in Italy. But yeah, we didn't have time to do really much in Bologna other than like go to this restaurant and walk around a bit. But it is somewhere that I really want to go back to because it intrigued me.
I mean, that whole region is like just so famous for its food.
Yes.
You have like Parma, you have Modena for its balsamic, and then
Yes.
Bologna is like it's got the tortellini things, like in a
Yeah.
little broth.
Yes.
I really want to just go and
Yeah,
eat
it's a
everything
foodie
there.
trip for sure. For sure.
After that was your Ryanair flight that you were delayed
Yes.
6 hours, which I'm sure you would have much preferred to have been eating more pasta in Bologna than waiting at the airport.
Absolutely. And we were all telling ourselves that at the airport. We're like, why are we here? Why are we doing this? What was the rationale behind this? I don't remember. I mean, it was to go and meet Doris's mom and her sister, but it just felt like, okay, maybe we could have organized this differently. Maybe they could have come and meet us, you know?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, in the end, we ended up landing really late in Madrid. I think it was like 2 a.m.
Mhm.
And we didn't get to spend much time there. And we were so tired. Me and Maria ended up going to the wrong Airbnb door and we're like buzzing this random residential door. And we're like trying to open the door and we're like trying to put the code, trying to buzz. We're like, what the heck? And then we realized that we were on the wrong side of the street. Yeah, no one answered, thankfully.
Oh
We
no.
didn't get, any backlash, but yeah, it was just funny. Yeah, we were in Madrid for then, given that we arrived so late, we were there only for like maybe a half a day, a bit more than a half day, because we were taking
Oh, so this was
next
quick
day.
too.
It was very quick. So what we did in Madrid is we just went for some traditional Spanish food. We went to a place and we had like tortilla de papas, we had like croqueta, and we had some like tinto de verano and just like ate some great food. And then we went to the El Retiro park, like the big central park in Madrid, a big, big green space that I had already been to on my trip to Spain. It's really beautiful. But yeah, we spent like kind of the rest of the day there walking around. And then we caught our train to Barcelona. Only me and Maria. Doris continued with her family from there. Tip on grabbing the train from Madrid because
Hi, dolls.
we made our train by 1 minute. I kid you not. We were like sweating because we were basing all of our train timing on like Italian train stations, we were going in very small train stations that were very clearly indicated, and like we had no issues. We would arrive there 40 minutes before our train, find our platform, no problem, get on the train. We would thought we could do the same in Madrid. But no, because there were so many obstacles along the way. Firstly, that the metro to the train station is a different line than like the regular metro station. And we didn't realize that. It wasn't clear where to buy your ticket. And you actually had to go like deeper into the train station in order to catch the train to the train station. So already that like took a lot of time. Thankfully, Maria speaks like fluent Spanish. So she called one of the random things in the metro station, like just a button in the metro station, like a stand, and just like asked the question. And a guy just came out of nowhere, like out of a door in the wall and helped us like buy a train ticket and told us where to go. So we went down to that train station. We were really lucky because there was a train that came. Otherwise, the next one was in 10 minutes. So if we would have not caught that one, we would have missed our train to Barcelona, which was very expensive, by the way, because it's one of the fast trains and it was really not cheap. And we had bought them in advance. So we took the train to the train station, got there. It is just a very big, confusing train station. We were so frazzled. We were running, but we didn't understand where to go. Maybe it was because we were stressed, but it didn't feel clearly indicated. We had to ask people along the way. Again, thankfully, she spoke Spanish because I think it made it a lot smoother for us to get directions. At one point, we like lost each other. Like I turned around and she was not there anymore. And like, we're like, oh my God, where? And then I found her and we're like, oh my God, oh my God. And then we like just found our platform, but there were so many obstacles because even when we found our platform, then we had to wait in line at security. But we like asked them like, can you please let us at the beginning of the line because we're like not gonna make our train. But you have to like put your suitcase through like the metal, not the metal detector, but the detector thing, at the airport. So we didn't know, like, this was never a thing in Italy. So we just, like, didn't anticipate any of us and I almost missed our train. So that was very stressful. So give yourself enough time if you're taking a train from Madrid. But we ended up making it, and we made it to Barcelona.
I sense perhaps a bit of regret going to Madrid at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were like, this was not very well planned. I do love Madrid. Like, honestly, the last time I went, the summer before, I loved it. I think it's a really fun city. But definitely this time it was just like too short and it just felt too rushed and we didn't have really time to like enjoy it. So it just felt like maybe a waste of other than like, meeting Doris's family, of course, but time-wise, I think it was just not ideal.
Do you have any recommendations for Madrid just really quickly from your previous time there?
The previous time we were there, we stayed in an Airbnb where we lived with the owner. So the owner had like tons of recommendations of vermouth bars. I love vermouth. I'm a big fan. So he sent us to the gay village of Madrid, and there was like this vermouth bar that was kind of underground, and we stayed there for a while, had a bunch of vermouth that they serve in like a pint. That's like a pint of vermouth that they serve like on tap.
Oh my gosh, this is giving me ouzo vibes again.
It's so
Just a
good.
straight
Oh,
liquor in a big glass.
I love it. And then we like met these two guys, a couple who like, we started talking to, and they bought us like a bunch of like the like Spanish tapas that are traditional to eat with vermouth and like yeah. So I would say like in Madrid, like I think it's great to check out the vermouth bars and to like kind of check out that whole culture.
Okay, cool. So tell me what you did in Barcelona.
Yeah. So we stayed in Elborn, which is near the Gothic quarter. It's like a medieval neighborhood. Um, and yeah, we stayed in this Airbnb that kind of had like it was very nice. That had like multiple rooms, that and a shared like common space. So we weren't like alone in the Airbnb. It was like kind of a big apartment that rented out like different rooms. And in Barcelona, I mean, we had a bit of an experience. I don't know if you know the story. I mean, we had like a great day. We went to the beach, Barceloneta beach. We like went to eat tapas. We walked around. But then in the evening, we were going out for dinner, and Maria just had her phone out, checking for directions, and someone came on a bike and like tore the phone out of her hand. And it took me like a minute to understand what was happening, but she like started chasing the guy right away and screaming at people to try to like get to like push him down. And it was like in the small, very narrow medieval streets, and he was just like dodging people with her phone open. We saw that it was like unlocked and he was like riding away with that. So that was very unfortunate because that was the first day that we were there. So very like violating and very kind of frazzling. It took us a few days to figure out what to do because she had she had her credit cards on there. I actually learned from her as well because she didn't know her Apple ID by heart, and I also don't, which like for Nick and my dad listening, I know might be like physically painful for them to hear that, but like okay. I was like, okay, lesson learned, because it made it a lot harder because we couldn't just go to the Apple store and get them to like give her a new phone, and everything is like double authentication. And anyway,
That's the most annoying part of about having your phone taken is
yeah,
the 2FA, the two-factor authentication. You need
yes,
your phone to authenticate you into anything.
yes. Yeah, it sucked, and like it definitely made us feel more insecure because I mean, we were just like looking at everyone and feeling like, okay, we can't get our second phone stolen now. So we were like extra insecure about my phone and like guarding it whenever we had to check for directions. We still made the best of it despite that large hiccup. Like also in Barcelona, we did eat very well. We ate a very special type of jamon, which I don't know if people have heard of it, but it's jamon ibérico de bellota, which is like jamon made from pigs that are acorn fed instead of pigs that are eating like I think just regular grains and feed. These are like free range acorn fed pigs, so it has a very like rich, buttery, nutty flavor. We were like freaking out. It was just like melt in your mouth, delicious. And this was something I'd never heard of compared to just your standard jamon serrano. It was very, very good. And we also went to a beach town that was like 45 minutes from Barcelona called Sitges, Sitges. And so we did a day trip there, because Maria had a friend living in a town outside of Barcelona who had a beach apartment there. So she was spending the day there. So we went to meet her. It's like a beach town. So there's a nice beach and there's like, tons of restaurants and like a cathedral. Well, I don't know if I'd call it a cathedral, but like a church. So we spent the day there, went for drinks and tapas. But then this like huge hailstorm hit. Like we saw it incoming, but we're like, okay, it's just gonna rain. But it ended up being like hail that was like the size of marbles. Like we had to like hide somewhere.
In the middle of summer?
Yes, this was like at 6 p.m. in the middle of the summer. So we like actually were on our way to the train station to go back to Barcelona when it started. And we were like, oh my God. So like ended up having to take cover because it just got too intense. And there was hail bouncing off the floor. It was insane. But anyway, it ended up like kind of clearing up. So we went to take the train back to Barcelona. But then clear up, it did not, because it got all of a sudden way worse. And the train, like the sky was purple. It was like dark and purple, and it was torrential raining. And the train actually ended up stopping in the middle of the tracks, in the middle of we were just in the middle of a field. It was pitch dark. They turned off the electricity in the train. There was like water flowing into the train. And we were actually really scared. Like,
Oh my
we were like, are we
gosh.
actually being, you see like all these effects of climate change happening to around the world and people who have experiences when they travel, but you just kind of see that, on the news. It feels like still kind of distant, but this was a moment we were where it felt very close to home. And it was like, are we gonna be stuck here? Like, is this train flooding? Like, it was very scary. But then in the end, I think we were stopped for like 30 minutes, and then they turned the lights back on and we ended up going, and the weather kind of calmed down. But that was another thing that happened on that part of the trip that was like, oh my God.
I think you guys should have stayed in Italy.
Right? I think then we had this running joke that it was like, okay, everything is telling us that we should have stayed in Italy. Like we, the universe was against us. Like we entered some parallel alternate universe that was like, nope, this is not for you. You're
Shouldn't have come here.
not supposed to be here. We moved to another neighborhood after that in Barcelona. We stayed in Gracia, which is more of like a local, calm neighborhood. There are less tourists. It feels it's not the medieval part anymore. It feels really like where people might actually live. So there it was a lot more calm and we just like, went to vermouth bars and walked around and previously in Barcelona I'd done all the museums already. Like I'd done the Picasso Museum, I went to the Banksy Museum and I saw kind of the really big park and like the Sagrada Familia also. So I'd seen all that already. She had also. So we just kind of also there ate and walked around as usual and shopped.
Is there anything else about Barcelona you want to mention?
I think that's it. I flew
Okay.
home from Barcelona. So that was the end of the trip. Told myself I
Okay.
would do all my souvenir shopping in at the duty free in the airport because I last year I had bought like vermouth and like all these nice things in the airport. But in the end, Air Canada asked me if I wanted to check in my bag for free. And I was like, okay, sure. Then I can buy some liquids and I could, not be so strict with my packing. So I was like, yeah, why not? Whatever. I have a direct flight. But in the end, I arrived at the airport and the line was 2.5 hours long. So I ended up running for my flight. I didn't have time to eat. I didn't have time to do any of the shopping I wanted to do. So I was like, never again will I check in a bag with Air Canada in a
I
popular
think
airport like Barcelona.
I think people take this for granted because in Toronto and Montreal, there's a baggage drop where you just like go drop your bag and then you like walk away. But in many airports around the world, they don't have that. You actually still have to go to a check-in desk.
Yeah.
So you do have to rely on the check-in desk, which I think we take for granted. Like especially Nick and I. Like Nick's like, "Oh, we can just drop our bag off." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Here, like in Toronto, because they have that as a
Yeah.
service, but many countries don't have that. You still have
Yeah.
to go to the desk."
Exactly. Exactly. It added a lot of time.
Yeah.
It was unfortunate.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone planning the same trip?
Not flying to Spain from Bologna, not integrating a Ryanair flight in the middle of your trip. I think I would have just like kept it to two countries. Like I think it's always nice to, imagine doing more in a short period of time. And it was cool that we were able to cover that many countries in just 3.5 weeks. But in the end, I would have just stayed longer in Italy, even longer in like some of the places we already saw in Italy, stay longer in Bologna and maybe taken another week just to like go down to Rome or go somewhere else in Italy instead of going to Spain, even though I love Spain. No hate towards Spain. Love it. It just didn't, I don't think it was the right fit for that specific itinerary.
I think something I've definitely learned from doing this podcast and my own travel is less is more. There's this want to always want to do more because it's the opportunity, but it's absolutely not always worth it. In fact, I would say it's most oftentimes not worth it. If you have a gut instinct saying, is this too much? It's probably too much.
Yes.
At least in Switzerland, you went to a bunch of places, but you were based in the same place, but the second you're moving and moving and moving and moving, it does take away from your ability to slow down and
Yeah.
appreciate travel. And that is Daytona's takeaway of this podcast is slow down.
Yeah,
It's so much more worthwhile. You get so
absolutely.
much more of an authentic experience. And it's a vacation. Don't run around like crazy. It's not good for anyone's mental health.
Yeah, and I think that was a big lesson learned, or something that I would like to repeat that I learned from Switzerland, is that having that base, because you don't have to like pack your bags. I just had this base in Fribourg, which I can then like just travel around, but always go back to that same base, which of course, like Switzerland is an insanely well-connected country, and the railway system, like you can get anywhere in Switzerland, like by train. So it is unique in that way. And maybe it's not replicable for other countries, but I did find like having that home base was like really game changing.
What's the next destination on your bucket list?
I mean, I really want to go to Japan. That's definitely next on my bucket list, and I'm actively trying to make it happen.
I feel like if we were on the same wavelength in terms of timing and price, I would go to Japan with you.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not on the
So
same
fun.
wavelength in terms of timeline or price,
Yeah.
but I actually would. You're one of the few people I would actually travel with.
No.
Yeah,
Me too.
First of all, I'm comfortable being in a enclosed space with you for long periods of time. I also feel like you and I know each other's boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. That's really important when you're traveling with people is, yeah, I've seen you. I've spent a lot of time with you. I seen you at all hours of the day. And vice versa. I think kind of boundaries and what to expect. So I think that's like, there'd be no surprises on a trip.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too, and I alluded to this a little bit before, is you are comfortable being slightly independent.
Yeah.
And I think if you're looking for a travel partner, you need someone who isn't just like loading on you all the time. Like, where are we going? What are we doing? Like, what's next? Like, I don't know.
No.
I couldn't handle that. And I feel like that's not what you're like at all.
No.
It's time to play a game.
Oh.
Yes. All right, Christina, it's time for a little rapid fire fun. I'm going to throw out 2 options, and you just pick the one that speaks to your soul.
Okay.
No explanations unless you really need to defend your choice. I'm calling this or that Euro Summer Edition. Swiss Alps or Cinque Terre Coast?
Cinque Terre Coast.
Aperol Spritz or Vermouth?
Vermouth.
Art gallery or food market?
Food market.
Fancy dinner in Firenze or casual tapas in Barcelona?
Oh, casual tapas in Barcelona, for sure.
Gruyere cheese or Iberico jamon?
Jamon Iberico. Iberico jamon.
Jamon Iberico. Italy or Spain?
Italy.
Oh,
But it's a hard one. It's a hard one.
I love Italy too.
Yeah.
So we do have some listener questions. What city had the best vibe for sitting on a terrace and people watching?
And people watching? Good question. I would say Milan, because that's where we sat on the terrace for longest for Appetitivo, which was like on the canal, there's like a lot of people walking by, and there's like it's a very like bustling, not bustling, but there are a lot of people like walking around. There's a lot going on. And that was where I would say that we sat on the terrace for the longest and looked around and, took it all in. So I would say Milan.
What place would you return to with your friends in the future?
Definitely that town outside of Cinque Terre.
Our secret town, top secret town.
Definitely.
Can you tell me when the podcast is over?
Yeah, I could tell you.
Okay, good.
I could tell you.
Well, thank you, Christina, La Mia Sorella, for joining us today on Wander Every Day.
Thank you so much.
Obviously, I love listening to your commentary in general. I love talking to you. And this trip is very inspiring, especially for someone who wants to go to Europe in the summer. So thanks for giving us the vibes. And I look forward to hosting you on the podcast soon, maybe to talk about Japan.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was so fun talking to you, as always.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. A huge thank you to my sorella, Christina, for taking us along on her amazing 1-month adventure in Europe last summer. From sipping wine in Gruyère to exploring the streets of Florence, diving into the energy of Barcelona, and everything in between. Whether you're dreaming of a European summer vacation, planning slow travel with friends, or just needed a little vicarious wanderlust today, I hope Christina's trip inspired you to romanticize the idea of traveling to Europe today, even if that just starts with a picnic in your local park. Don't forget to follow Wander Every Day, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow me at wander_every_day on Instagram or TikTok. Do you have a friend who wants to visit Europe in the summer? Send them this episode so they can get all the info about the do's and don'ts of traveling to Europe in the summertime. Until next time, friends, happy wandering.